What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of On the Break. We have a good one coming to you. We are continuing our series of videos going over team previews for this upcoming season. And the next team we have are the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, Trevon, the Oklahoma City Thunder finished with a record of 40 and 42 last season. They made the play-in tournament. They beat the New Orleans Pelicans in their first matchup, and then they lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves in their second matchup. This is a young team that a lot of people are really high on this upcoming season. A lot of people are really excited about this team this upcoming season. And I actually think that is actually warranted. I'm one of those people that are excited about it. So, what are your thoughts on this team going into this next season, Trevon?
Yeah, so the Oklahoma City Thunder, like you mentioned, a lot of people are recognizing the young, exciting talent that they have on this roster. We've kind of kept an eye on them, for the past few years, but just like everybody else, we really caught an eye for them. We've seen them play some good basketball. They've been a lot of highlights have gone around. We've seen obviously Shea had an all-star season and he played very well. Shea averaged 31.4 points per game, 4.8 rebounds per game, 5.5 assists on 62.6% true shooting. He did have a pretty high usage rate of 34.5. And the saying that goes around is if you're on a bad team or something like that, then people expect for you to score a lot of points, right? But not only was he was taking a good amount of attempts, but for his per shot attempt, he had 125.9 points per 100 shot attempts. That rate's fourth in the league, only behind Steph, Dame, and Mike Conley, and Luka is right behind him. That means that he was pretty effective when he was shooting those shots. Either he was making it or he was getting to the line. So if you want to say Shea only averaged those numbers because he was on the team that he was and he was just taking a lot of shots, it wasn't an inefficient shooting performance from him from a game to game basis or a per shot basis. Shea was actually getting these buckets efficiently. And he also assisted on 24.9% of his teammates' made shots. Now, the way that he did it was mainly inside. So 40% of his shots came within 4 feet of the basket. That's fifth in the league behind Ja, who we know takes a lot of shots within the paint and is efficient at it. And just to also kind of give you context, that he was also behind Westbrook, but he was top 5 in taking shots from that area. He was top 10 in attempts from paint to mid-range shots. And he wasn't much of a three-point shooter. He was 45th as far as attempts from that spot. But I bring all that to say we know what he does mainly and where he likes to score from. And then you think of players like a Chet Holmgren that's going to come in and hopefully he can be healthy this season. Chet, while he didn't play last season, I can go off of his summer league stats. Chet, he averaged 16.5 points, 9.8 rebounds, which is really good. He averaged 2 assists, a steal, and 3.5 blocks per game. He shot 48.9% from the floor, which you will hope to see goes up a little bit, given that he is a big man. Not all shots will be from the perimeter. You would like to see him get somewhere inside. And he did only connect on just 1 of 11 attempts from the three. But if you also want to go based off of his college stats, Chet Holmgren shot 39% from three, and the blocks were still there, 3.7 blocks. I think those are two important numbers to look at because I feel like as Chet does get acquainted to the NBA style, get acquainted to the physicality, I feel like the three ball will come along and he will be effective from there, which will help stretch out those bigs, will just help Shea get even more opportunities within the paint and scoring from that area that he likes to score. They were also pretty small, especially at that big position. So once again, getting a guy like Chet Holmgren will help because he is thin that a lot of people like to mention and bring that up. But as I mentioned, 3.5 blocks, 3.7 blocks in college. If he's not blocking the shot, he's going to bother a lot of people and make them second guess And not only to mention that, he was doing all this in college, only averaging 2.7 fouls. So he's blocking these shots without fouling. So I think his addition will be very important to insert him into this young nucleus that they have. I didn't even mention guys like Josh Giddey, who averaged around 16 points himself. He likes to score within that area similar to Shea does. He has a very good float game. He's able to rebound the ball, a big 6'8" wing. He was considered a shooting guard. He's an amazing passer. He not only does he find people, he has velocity on his passes, so it's getting to you quick and often. Trey Mann, who is a highlight machine, we've seen him poster a lot of people. So there's a lot of young players that we have on this team. Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams, I didn't mention him, who's a big, about 6'6" wing. They have a lot of players on this team that I feel can really advance with. And just finally getting Chet to play, I feel like that's going to bring things full circle and kind of be a starting point for you to understand what you have. And then as the years go on, you'll continue to add to this team and just add those pieces. But not only do I think the future is something to look at, I think they do have a chance to get within the play-in again, possibly get home court advantage within the play-in, and also possibly they could sneak in there if they are putting themselves in a good enough position. But I do think that play-in is probably a little bit more realistic, especially with just them still being young. We saw them in that playing game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were just outsized. When you have Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert to go up against. So I think just getting a little bit more depth at that center position is what they'll need. And Chet Holmgren is a start. And I just see this team continuing to improve because they're young, electric, and they have the talent to be able to compete with the rest of the league in this Western Conference.
Yeah, Trevon, no, you gave a lot of good points, man. And I think that you brought up a really good point with Chet Holmgren. Chet is a guy that I think a lot of people probably forgot about, especially since he didn't play last season. But he addresses a big need for this team going into this next season with the rim protection. He brings an element to this team that they can really use on the defensive end. And then on the offensive end, I think he fits in very well. I think the transition from him not playing last year to him playing this year and them integrating him into the team is going to be easier than what some people might think it would be, especially the way that the Oklahoma City Thunder play. They play a lot of 5-out, right? And Chet is a very skilled big that can shoot the three, but also put the ball on the floor when he needs to. Now, having Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who is a bona fide star, he is great with the ball. And you said a lot of people might say, of course, he would put up these numbers on a team that wasn't that great, but around him, they have a lot of talent too. You have Josh Giddey, who is a great second option on this team, who, like you said, averaged 16 points a game, right? He also had like 6 assists a game. And then you also have the guard or the wing player, Jalen Williams, who came on, especially towards the latter part of the season, the second half of the season. He was averaging like 13 a game. And then you have Lou Dort, who was averaging 13 a game. And so the ball was spread out. You know, they had a lot of hands in helping that team get to where they were last year. So, but yeah, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is a bona fide star. The way he breaks down a defense and the way he gets to a spot, you can tell he's really methodical about it. He understands where he wants to get, how he wants to get into his shots, and he operates in that mid-range to paint area. But when he needs to take a three, he knows how to set it up to where you can get a three off. So he's going to be really good moving forward. He's going to be one of the top players in the league in the near future. This team, when I look at it, Trevon, especially going into next year and then into the future, they have a lot of really good basketball players on this team, and a lot of them are young, and they just fit well together. The way I just explained how Shea gets into his shots, but how Jalen is able to the wing player Jalen Williams is able to get into his shot, and how he's developed over the course of the season, getting better each and every game, how he was able to figure it out towards the end of the season last season. The way that they score, Jalen and Shea, they help Josh Giddey just be able to be who he is. Josh Giddey is a guy that can do it all, man. Like, he's like, the way he plays his game is just awesome to watch. He can pass. That's really one of his strongest suits, his ability to pass and get his teammates involved. The way he rebounds, and he can still give you buckets as well. So the way that this whole team fits is just, it just comes together. I didn't even mention Lou Dort, who is great on defense and can still produce points on the offensive end. And then, like we were saying, bringing in Chet, he's just going to bring a different aspect to this team where he can play off of those guys. So the way that this whole thing is coming together for this upcoming season, I'm excited to see it. And honestly, like I said before, a lot of people are really high on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and there have been people saying that they'll get, maybe a top 4 seed, maybe have a similar season to what happened last year with the Sacramento Kings. I'm not completely sure that will happen. I'm not going to rule it out either. I think that they have the potential to do that. That's probably their ceiling. But I think they might be a little more towards the play-in. I think they have a shot to make top 6 in the Western Conference next year. But just looking, I did the rundown, and just looking at the teams, I don't know who's coming out of the top 6. OKC, I feel like OKC can make the top 6, but I can also see them being in the play-in too. I do think that they're going to make the playoffs. Let's keep that clear. I believe they're going to make the playoffs. But in terms of being top 6, it's just so tough in that Western Conference. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see this OKC Thunder team play, and I hope that they make it top 6. But if not, they're definitely still going to get in the playoffs, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's why I agree with you on. I wasn't necessarily thinking top 4 spot. You know what I'm saying? And the Sacramento Kings, the jump that they had, a large part was due to a weird Western Conference. I feel like a lot of these teams have bolstered and addressed the issues that they had last year. So to see something like that happen again, I think it would have to be due to injuries, which is possible. But hopefully, I really hope there's not that many injuries this year, or catastrophic injuries. Obviously, you're going to get banged up and things. I hope there's no catastrophic injuries. But just for that same type of standing situation to shake out, I wouldn't really bet my money on that to happen. I would expect for this season to be more likely, more how we would envision when we make our preseason predictions. We're looking at the roster and what we have seen historically from these players. So I think the outcome would be more closer to what we expect from these teams and players based off what they have. So I agree with you there. I do see home court advantage in the play-in, because I do think there are steps you have to take as far as becoming that team that we all see their ceiling can be for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't want to rule out the possibility of them being a lock within that playoff without having to play the play-in. That's why I put them as, a home court advantage playing team, and I'm not ruling them out as far as good seeding, because I think in the regular season, just having that youth and depth that they have will give them a good opportunity to be one of the better teams within the Western Conference as far as seeding goes.